もが言うよ無駄だってどこへ行ったって変わらないって風に飛ばされて声聞こえないふりで走ろう断ち切るため逃げたわけじゃない孤独の中で二人は光夜の雨に歌われながらどこまでも歩いていこう本当の自分になれる日は決めるはまた遠くなる旅路は終わらない光が差す場所探して暗闇の中手をつないで果てない空に願いかけたどり着く時は来るの答えはきっと知らない方がいい傷ついても君は僕の光夜の雨に歌われながらどこまでも
All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening and a wonderful week so far. Hope you stayed out of the way of the hurricane slash tornado that was tearing through the United States today.
Yeah.
Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, Gunpla, and gaming. This is Sammy. I am Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, your host, and joining me as always, the Blue Gamer Gundam Explainer, Adam Blue. How are you, my friend?
Hey, doing good. Yeah, ready to catch up, talk, whatever you have. Actually, I've been waiting all day. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited for tonight's show. Obviously, it's the first show of Mecha March. If you celebrate Mecha March,
Oh,
I don't know if that's a thing.
I think every year you bring that up, and I'm like, oh, great idea.
If only somebody had thought of that last month. No.
But I mean, though, isn't it overshadowed by Mario Day? I know it's just one day, but Nintendo.
Yeah, they tend to take credit for everything. Well, typically, my favorite day of March is March 11th, which I call 311 Day, which is when I walk around listening to the song Amber, and I do this because, the lead singer of 311 doing that whole...
That was my time, but I did not listen to that band.
No, you listen to much harder music than I did, for sure.
Well, you know what? It wasn't always like that. It wasn't until I was 16 that I was, like, getting into punk and stuff, and before that, it was video game soundtracks. So it's kind of
Well,
interesting.
I'm glad we discussed video game soundtracks. So we were just talking off stream. I
Oh.
hope you guys enjoyed. I see in the chat you guys liked this new intro music that I was testing out here. Funny story about that music. So that was an AI generated track. At least I would say like 95% because I wrote the lyrics and then I plugged them into Grok and had Grok translate them into Japanese. And
That's
then
amazing.
so I basically made my own anime intro by taking a song that I wrote, converting it to Japanese, and then plugging those Japanese lyrics in and saying like, "Oh, give me like anime pop rock." So
Yeah, I love it. I've been having fun with it, and I was just telling you, like, I feel like music is done. I'm someone like, both of us are musicians,
yeah,
that's just not been our primary, like, hobby thing, and, I've recorded music before, I've made a lot of electronic music, even most actually, like, all but one song that is normally played during Gundam Explained is music I've made, but
true.
AI music is so fun because you can get very specific with the sound you want, and out of that comes those which happens when I make music anyway, the happy accidents. Because
Yeah,
I am not a trained guitar player or drummer, I do it by ear. Sometimes I'll do things and mess up and be like, "Oh, yeah, let's do this," or play it, and it's like you do that with the AI, and and like you said, you could write the lyrics, you can write, and then the way you write the lyrics almost shapes how the melodies and the choruses, so you keep that in mind with how you're writing the prompt for the music, and you really truly can create something.
Yeah, I think so. It all goes back to the sort of foundational principle that I always talk about when it comes to AI, like generative AI, is that generative AI can take something good and make it great. It can't take something mediocre and make it good. So
Right.
you really, you know,
Yeah.
um, I think what it does is it democratizes access to entire instruments and things like that. So if you are a solo artist that, you've got a guitar, you sing, you can write melodies and stuff like that, being able to say, "Hey, I'm going to record myself playing guitar, singing a song, plug that into an AI and let it fill in the rest." That's a very powerful thing. And it allows people to focus on the things that they're talented on instead of becoming like, I hate the term like jack of all trades because, first of all, it used to be jack of all trades, master of one. And so that was like, it was
Oh.
the original saying is master of one trade. So like you are talented at one specific thing, but you also have enough of a talent
Yeah.
in a breadth of things. But then obviously the rhyme came out that it's like jack of all trades, master of none, which to me that's a very bad place to be. You don't want to be the kind of person that has no distinguishing qualities.
Well, it's funny bringing this up. I remember, I feel like that's something I've gone through most of my life, where I've always felt like, I have interests in all these different things, but there's not one thing I could say that like I'm devoted to and good and really good at. And I remember I was working private security, and this is young. I was young. I was 19. I was
Oh,
there for
wow.
6 years, and very quickly I got promoted into kind of the I forget what the terminology was, but it was, I was suit and tie, like in a vehicle with certain family members. I was protected. I felt crazy that I was there. But what was interesting was since I was young, I think what worked was just maybe my demeanor, being respectful. And that's what got me in that spot. But after a while, I remember the director one time said to me, you're like a jack of all trades. But I, kn- I knew how he was saying it.
Yeah.
Like he was and I've always stuck with that's always kinda stuck with me. It was more of I could navigate a wide variety of things, but there was not one thing you could be like, "Oh, Adam could do that. Oh, Adam could do that." And
Yeah.
I thought about that in that line of work and, as private security, I got out of that anyway. And then even getting into, like, digital marketing when I was doing that, I felt like, "Well, I'm pretty good at figuring this out and this out," but it's not like one thing. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting, concept to think about, but it used to be master of one. That I didn't know.
Yes. Yeah, that was the original saying, which, I feel like it's one of those things that gets lost along the way. For
Yeah.
instance, do you ever say when you say all of a sudden, do you say all of a sudden or all of the sudden?
All the
All of a sudden?
all of a
All the
sudden. No,
So my
that's a
wife
good point. You don't that's it's almost like it's a phrase and not that it's words you're saying. But I know what you mean. All or
all of a sudden or yeah,
you know what one I hate the most?
irregardless.
Oh, that's pretty good. No, but especially.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? And the reason why was because early in my professional career, I had a kind of a grammar Nazi boss at one point, but they would always say especially.
Ugh.
And then when I got into some other, corporate jobs, and then we would have these executive meetings, and even the higher ranking people are saying especially. And so I'm kinda like, "Okay, is this some, like, Mandela effect maybe? And really that's how you pronounce it in
What
some
what if
where"
they were all just pranking you? What if it was
Yeah,
like the entire company got together and they were like, "We are going to mess with this guy so bad. Every single one of us is gonna pronounce something like."
that sounds like the plot to a Workaholics episode. I I bet that's a good one.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's so much stuff that we're gonna talk about tonight. Obviously, it being the first show of the month, we've got some Patreon creator, spotlights that I want to call out, and then of course, let me pull this up real quick because tonight's show is sponsored by Principality New York. For those of you guys who don't know, Principality New York is a collective of artists, Gunpla builders, and content creators up in the five boroughs. Go give them a follow on Instagram. We've currently got a giveaway going on, which is sponsored by Art Robo Gundam, who, obviously friend of both of our YouTube channels.
Heck yeah.
They're giving away a G-Quux model kit, the high grade. So hop over to Instagram. There's links down in the description to all of this stuff. But yeah, tag 3 friends and go ahead and nab you one of these kits, which you just dropped a
Yes.
review of this kit
Thank
this
you.
morning.
Thank you, because I was about to say I'm gonna plug myself, but no, thanks.
There you go.
I don't know what that means actually, now that I said that out loud, but let's move on. No, but yeah, up on my channel, G-Quux high grade review. I hope you guys enjoy it because I did a lot of different things to kind of up the production value, to kind of make it exciting, and because at the end of the day, this was a cool kit, and I said it in, and I go into more detail, but in the review, I say like, I feel like you don't have to even know or like Gundam to have fun building this robot. Like that's how. And actually, check this out. Kind of related. I ordered this off of Amazon. Right? It looks Evangelion, right? And
Yeah.
it was only $38, but it's an action figure that you build.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of the same concept where it's just building a robot is just fun. And yeah, it's like it's already cut, so they're not on runners or anything. It'll be
Well, that's
interesting
kind
to
of
see.
cool.
Yeah, what that's like. But
Yeah, when I look at the G-Cux, it looks almost organic. It looks more like a guy in a suit
yeah,
than a Gundam, which
right.
is kind of cool in a way. Like it's like the 30 minutes fantasy, that line that just
Yeah.
came that's been out for a while.
Actually,
Um,
yeah, that doubles down on the concept of a Gundam robot being more of a human-looking robot than a like Armored Core style, or mech.
right. It's like less of a mech and
Yeah.
more of a
That's why I think the Evangelion, that creator, I'm really excited that I got into Evangelion when I did, in just, that Hideaki Anno guy's just another creator like a George Lucas or Tomino that I, look up to and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
there's something to be said about those sort of auteurs, and, I was actually just recently I saw the Quentin Tarantino interview where he's talking about how he hasn't watched Toy Story 4,
Oh,
which
yeah.
it's so hilarious that he even has a stance on Toy Story, but I agree with him. It's like, how do you follow up Toy Story 3, which is such a perfect ending for the toy saga?
Yeah. I never saw 4 either.
I mean,
And to me, it was more
good,
of I
but
don't need to cry anymore. When I know these movies do that, I don't like to watch them.
So, yeah, the question is, did you cry harder at the beginning of the movie Up, where it's like, obviously the montage of, oh, they can't have kids, and then like the wife gets sick, or did you cry harder at the beginning of Toy Story 3 when it's "You've Got a Friend in Me," and it's like, "And as the years go by, our friendship will never die." And like it's like, oh, fast forward to he's too old to play with toys anymore.
That's pretty good. I think Up.
Yeah.
Was Up later?
I think Up came out before Toy Story
Oh,
3.
okay.
Chat, double check me on that.
I feel like I cry harder as I age at
Oh,
these
yeah, for sure. Like,
so
I'm such a big softy.
but if really what I cried the most at's probably when Luke Skywalker showed up in The Mandalorian. Let's be honest,
Mm,
that, that I even can't believe it. It's like, "Adam, really?" And it's like, "Yeah, Adam, really? Yeah,
yeah.
I did it."
The one thing I will give credit to that is that that was one of the few instances of, like, the CGI AI deepfake where the actor in question is still alive. We talked about a couple weeks
Oh,
ago,
yeah.
like, fan casting the Gundam movie, and I said you could probably fan cast the entire Gundam movie with the cast of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Well, in the last season of Cobra Kai, or the most recent season, I should say, spoiler alert, Mr. Miyagi's back, and they did like a deep fake of Pat Morita, the yeah, actor that
Yeah.
who famous actor, but passed away several years ago. And so yeah, they had like a whole dream sequence where, and maybe this is the right way to do it because in a dream sequence, it's kind of okay that it doesn't look like it looks kind of uncanny valley awkward because it's in a dream. But still, I think that Luke Skywalker is the only example of when they've done one of those like character deepfakes where the actor is still alive. Like I didn't think it was okay to do it for Carrie Fisher.
And so you mean like when they do it onto another actor because maybe the actor's appearance can't pull it? Maybe Harrison Ford with Indiana Jones.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, they
But
did do
that's
that.
later, and it's Lucasfilm. So I think it's still within that,
But he still acted in it, right? It was more of like de-aging,
yeah, you're
whereas
right. Well, no, they did have some scenes where it was like a stunt double.
oh, okay.
But no, I think you're right though. He still shows up in it, so that still doesn't count. Yeah, that is kind of weird to think, but you know what? It's one of those things where, and weight, everyone has trouble with weight and age. Like, could they have really said, "Hey, Mark, do you want to maybe like let's get with a trainer and see if we can get you to that?" I mean, would that ever have been a conversation? Because I feel like if you were an aging actor and you thought you were done with that role, and they're like, "Hey, we think there's some mileage. Look at Liam Neeson, doing all his stuff. How about?"
Even Sam Jackson, like,
Yeah,
I know that Sam Jackson, they'll usually put him in like, Spanx or something, like something to hide the belly, but like, he still keeps
yeah.
himself in relatively good shape.
And
And
as
there are
long
other aging actors that have, cut weight.
Yeah, I mean, even it was funny, Bruce Campbell, the first season of Ash vs. Evil Dead, no, it was Burn Notice, the first season
Mm,
of Burn Notice, and as the series got popular and went, he got slimmer and slimmer, and I was always proud. I was always
yeah,
proud of Bruce Campbell for, losing that weight.
good for him,
But
man.
no, that is interesting. I think it would be neat if, Mark if and I don't know why that didn't happen. If it was maybe a Disney thing with money, with legacy actors, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, it would have like weight is a whole other issue to being like what 40 years older than the
Yeah.
character's supposed to be. But like, let's be honest, there's plenty of people in their 30s that are playing high school students, so it's not
Yeah,
like
I know, right?
it's kind of silly. But yeah, telling people to slim down aside, let's talk about obviously I've got one of the things that I do every month, well, that we started a couple months ago, but I want to keep this going because it's been fantastic. You guys have really delivered on this. Is this Patreon creator spotlight where we come up with a theme every month and we all build something, whether it's a gunpla, whether it's writing a story, writing a song, something where we can try to encapsulate that theme, and then the first show of every month we like to showcase that stuff and call out the creators. So we got a couple of good entries to show out here, and let's just hop right into it and take a look.
Cool, cool, cool.
So first up, and I hope that the screen share is looking good here. Okay, so this one is from Our Lady Arduino, Artie Andy over on Discord. So I'll paraphrase the introduction here, but it's sort of a two-part entry for our theme this past month was legacy, which serendipitously, the idea and the concept of legacy has come up a lot recently. Like, people's legacy as an actor, people's legacy that they plan on leaving behind. Yeah, and even just last week when we had Nick from, Nickel Models
Yeah,
from ODO, he was talking about what his legacy might be as somebody that founded RVA Gunpla, somebody that has worked to make Gundam and Gunpla a mainstay on the IPMS stage. So um, Arduino put together this originally a diorama involving the bear guy mom and the bear guy petite as their kid on the beach. Now that she's actually got a little tyke running around, it was a goal to make something with the dad in the picture, which I love. Obviously, being a dad myself and you as a father, it's like
yeah,
anything that kind of like tugs on the parental heartstrings. It's like, ugh.
yeah.
um, but then she said, then I thought about what I'll do is he'll end up teaching our kiddo down the road and knew instantly that it would be fishing. So the base is supposed to be an infinity mirror. I think that this is the concept still is executed really well.
Yeah.
So, first time using a lot of these materials, but a wonderful teaching moment. She says, appreciate the theme. Well, I appreciate you making a submission. So, thank you. Let's take a look. So, this is the original post. This is from 2019, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. I see you in chat there. This is the original piece of the bear guy mom with the petite bear guy out on the beach, which excellent diorama, placed third in its category. So congratulations there. Super cute. Now let's see what 6 years has done in terms of our skill level. This is the
Wow.
finished piece for Legacy. It is the Papa guy, the bear guy dad, from Build Fighters with a petite guy teaching the little guy how to fish. And I love this concept. This is one of the things that I've talked to you about, Adam, is the idea of like the infinity mirror,
Yeah.
where I'm not even fully sure how to execute this because it involves lights within the mirror itself and like an acrylic plate so that basically you can kind of create this illusory image that just extends down into
Yeah.
nothing. So having this infinity pool is so cool.
Yeah.
A- and you know that I'm a sucker for obviously we were just talking about IPMS last week and like competition builds when it comes to Gunpla. This is the type of thing that no matter what the execution is, what I appreciate about it is the theme and like the attempt to tell a story here. Where,
Yeah.
typically when you see like I don't want to say that let me see if I can say this diplomatically. When I see like a really well executed kit and it's just standing there and it has like no flair, no pose, nothing, I'm like, all right, cool, like that's a nice toy. But when I see something like this where it's, even as because this is not a huge diorama, right? Like this is a very intimate space. But you can tell that there's something going on here. And you can even tell even down to like the posing of like the bear guy's head, the way it's turned and like facing the child, that there's communication going on there, that this is a teaching moment, right? So I can't say how much I love this piece.
Yeah. I completely agree. I love this stuff. This is making me even think of things, I guess, when I don't really have too many dioramas. I'm always thinking what to do, what to do, what to do. And it maybe should kind of something that touches more on maybe personal side, maybe kind of
Mm.
drum up something have to do with relationships or something else. That's a really good idea. Because yeah, it informs more than what it is at face value.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely. But I mean, this infinity mirror trick, honestly, this is what I think you should do with your Kenner Stormtrooper action figures. Is if you create like a row of them, or just like two rows, and then you create that infinity mirror behind it, then you can make it look like you've got an entire legion, which is
yeah, I gotta say I love this part of it too. Like that like you don't even need that. Like at first, you know what I mean? But this just adds to it.
exactly. And I'm a sucker for a gimmick. Like obviously, like I
Yeah.
love LEDs, I love, microcontrollers. I love anything that kind of transforms and has these types of things. And this is one of the things that I feel like scale model competitions don't appreciate enough because there's really not a good way of illustrating it sometimes. If it's not just something that you can see in a still image, then you kind of don't get to enjoy the value of the piece. And so that's where it's like I need there to be a Gunpla competition that showcases stuff like this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, I know what you mean. It's very theme heavy,
Yeah.
you know? Well, kind of being, because that's the thing, I guess, right? Because you were just talking about sometimes it's just a straight build, but it's painted, seam lines, everything. Here it is. To me, that's different than a scene, a story. There's a thing to this. And um would those seam lines need to be, melted when it's really telling a story that is more impactful than a seam line being there or not?
That's where it's like if I had to choose between something like this, if it had fundamental issues where it's like, oh, seam lines are exposed, but then I saw like a painted kit that didn't do anything for me, narratively speaking,
Yeah.
I almost give more weight to something like this than I do to the well-executed kit.
Same here.
But
Because
that's
at the end of the
but
day,
that's just
I
me.
am no, because at the end of the day, it is a model kit.
Mm,
It's not like I'm looking at a real it's not like, "No, this is a real one, I just made it small." It's like,
yeah.
"No, no, no, this is a model kit." You know? It's gonna I don't know. Yeah, weird reasoning, but hey, that's what we're
But
here for.
thank you for the submission, Artie. This is a
Yeah.
fantastic piece. I really appreciate it, and I think that this is this it really captures the spirit of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So thank you. Also
Ooh, okay.
submitted from Ultronomous. This is, his sort of intro to this piece. Hopefully I'm going to be able to share it. We'll see like how the setup is. I didn't have a lot of time to get the technical setup. As you guys have seen, I'm like slowly like inching Adam's camera around cuz I'm like, I only got down here with like 30 seconds to spare after putting my daughter to bed. So, from Ultronomous, the Hymn of the Ancients was meant to be the main theme for an RPG that he was making that was then shifted to simply becoming a novel. The seven sages sacrificed themselves to save the world, creating massive pillars to seal away a great evil. The medley, which combined with each of their musical motifs, serves as a legacy alongside the pillars, being heard gently on the breeze or whenever one got near enough to the pillars themselves, which is kind of a cool concept. Part of me is sad that this didn't become like a video game RPG because I like that idea. Um, if you ever played Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, when you're in like that bazaar on the Sky Islands, there's like the different parts of the market, and if you go to like different sections, am I thinking of the right one? Or am I thinking of Twilight Princess? One of them, you go to different sections of the market, and like different aspects of the music will swell to
I don't
evoke
remember which
the
one, but
feeling of like the individual. It's a very cool idea, and that's the vision that I got from this.
yeah, I
So
like the music theme thing. Going back to music that we were
I
talking about
I
earlier,
thought that you'd appreciate this, and of course, like, now I feel bad using, like, an AI generated, music
yeah.
to introduce the show, and it's like, "Oh, no, here we have actual people music." So let's see if this will play for us. So I will let the music continue on in sort of a low tone as we discuss it because it's a track, and what you'll notice is that there's three melodies that really stand out, right? You've got the haunting vocal, like the artificial vocal melody going on. You've got the pianos, and then there is string melody on top of that. First of all, I love that Artie calls it in chat here. Yes, very Zelda, specifically a fairy pool.
Yeah,
Pool, I even get like simple vibes from it.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
really like it. Very atmospheric too, to where it has a vibe to it.
exactly.
The first section is the water stage.
Yeah. So, and I like that idea. And so, what you'll hear is like, throughout the whole 6 minutes of the track is like, obviously melodies will come in, go out, and it's very cool. I didn't even bother to ask Autonomous what software you use to put this together, whether this was played like on a MIDI keyboard and then sampled using samples like that. Uh,
Yeah, I'd be curious. There's so many sequences out there, and sometimes it's really hard to find one that is usable. For me, it's FL Studio, but even then, I'm very novice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so you've been using FL Studio, right, Adam?
Yeah,
Um, and you are by trade a drummer.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and so this is a very melodic tune, and so like for you being someone who comes from a percussion background, how like what is your interpretation of something that's very like that haunting atmospheric? Uh,
Well, what I really liked about it, yeah, is atmospheric, and I like atmospheric style of music, but also, even though there wasn't strong percussion in here, it had a rhythm. I was able to find it
mhm.
really fast and jive with it. It was a real nice it was pretty upbeat for being a very atmospheric and chill song. That's what I liked stuff like that. It reminds me sometimes like lounge or cafe music where it's just a little bit upbeat, but just chill enough to get you in a chill vibe. So,
Yeah, it's one of those tracks where the individual keystrokes of the piano serve as the percussion because it's like you can almost hear the hammer hitting the string inside
yeah,
of the
yeah.
so very cool. And what did he say here? So in chat, Ultronymous says that MuseScore was a program where you could make music and sheet music with a variety of instruments. The catch is that you have to place every note individually. I mean,
Oh,
that's no different than like FL Studio,
FL
right? Because you
Studio.
have to
I
kind of
know. It's just that stuff is tedious, when
it
you
is.
so knowing he made this, I mean, I know the work it is to do this stuff, and that's why sometimes it's hard. Even though you might think, "Oh, I can make music behind a computer," it's still very tedious.
It
And
is. So there's almost like and like I'm a huge Porter Robinson fan and Madeon, so like I'm familiar with like EDM artists who spend all their time in software and DAWs where it's like
yeah.
you don't ever touch an instrument, but it's almost like because you don't have that muscle memory interaction with the song, it's like it's almost more difficult in a way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've played music, made music live with a band, like, sit there and when you're playing that way, I feel like it's so much easier than if I was to sit there and now I can sit there and program and fine tune to exactly what I want it to be. But yeah, there is this sense of loss when it comes to the repetitive of playing it. But something
Mhm.
that does happen when I'm using FL Studio is I'll hear the song so much, or when I'm making digital music that it'll just be stuck in my head throughout the day sections, and then it will fill in for me like throughout the day, like,
You'll
oh, I
remember
did that
like, "Ooh, I know
thing.
what to put when I get back
Yeah.
to the" yeah.
So that's one thing. Yeah, make music is fun, and that's why with the AI stuff we were talking about, like it's just another tool to have fun with.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I would be eager to try out, because like when I played in the band Spies and we would play live, like I was not on the recorded albums, like I was filling in for the instruments that weren't present for the
Mhm.
shows. So like for instance, the lead singer's fiance's younger sister played cello on the original track. And so what I would do is because she was, you know, A, she was too young to go to a bar and be playing like with this like in a seedy bar with these older guys, is I would get my electric guitar and I had an EBO, which is just like you're gonna love this. It's a magnet
Oh,
that
nice.
actually stimulates the strings for you and kind of like without strumming the strings of the guitar, it allows you to kind of manipulate the strings. And so what I would do is I would essentially be playing the strings parts on a guitar and but I didn't so like you it's like I don't know music theory, I didn't have the sheet music or
Yeah.
anything, so I would be improvising these cello parts on a
Yeah.
guitar in a bar, and it was like that's the type of thing that I would love to just, like, have an AI generate the drums and, like, the rhythm guitar, and then I would just lay my melodies on top of it and say, like, "Yeah, okay, you know, here's my contribution to the expression," because, like, I
Yeah.
can't write the drum part, I can't play the drum part, but what I can do is play a not cello on the guitar.
No, that's interesting. This tool, this magnet thing, did it plug in? Did it have a battery?
Yeah, it's a 9-volt battery, and it
Interesting.
actually has 2 different modes. One of these days, I will show it off on stream. Tell you what, if you guys meet the I won't say what the super chat goal is,
Oh,
but we'll say there's a super chat. No, honestly, I don't know where it is right now, so I can't pull it out tonight.
that was pretty
But
good. That was pretty No,
but
that's just pretty neat because that was one thing when I would play guitar, wasn't too familiar with like pickups, for instance.
yeah,
Sometimes you would I think there was one where it would have a battery, but I went to Radio Shack and, like, made it where I could plug it into an AC outlet or something. Um,
yeah,
but it was very interesting the stuff you could do to a guitar,
very cool.
electric guitar, yeah.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So yeah, essentially that's what the EBO does is it's a tiny electromagnet. It has two settings actually. One simply vibrates the string over like basically because like you said the pickup is a magnetic field that
Yeah,
picks up the vibration of the string. This is just an electromagnet that harmonizes with the magnet in the
that's cool.
pickup. Now you can set it to where it just vibrates the string, or you can set it to its like harmonic mode. So like if you're familiar with like doing pinch harmonies and stuff like that on a
Yeah.
guitar, it will play like those high harmonies instead of the regular note on the string, which is kind
Oh,
of cool.
and
So you can kind
it
of
a
get
matter of,
real.
like, you're tuning it to be at a certain frequency or vibration or something like that?
So what's interesting is like when you have it in that mode, it really doesn't matter where you
Oh,
hold like where you're playing on the string because like eventually you're going to like basically loop back around on yourself and it's just going to play where it was before, which is kind of a weird thing to think
interesting.
about and weird thing to say, but
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. It's magic, it's all around us.
It truly is. Well and truly. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for these submissions. I actually let me see here if we can do something here because I have a submission myself, sort of.
Oh,
let's let's grab this and we are just going to swap out what we're sharing here. Let's see if this will actually pull up. All right. So here we have a camera view of my desk. It's a little dark because I don't have the overhead lights set up the way that I'd like. So one of the things that I had planned as my entry as the legacy, and this is the reason that this particular stream is sponsored by Zeeg New York, is we have the Gundam EX
Principality of
here.
New York. He will get you for that.
Principality New York. See, when you do it for 5 years and you're like,
I
"Zeeg, Zeeg,
know.
Zeeg." No, it's Principality New York. The reason that this was, sponsored by them is because this particular kit was provided by Principality New York, the Gundam EX from Requiem for Vengeance. One of the things that I don't like about this kit is the head. Man, the head drives me nuts. It looks goofy. It looks like a guy wearing one of those old, like, 1920s football helmets.
Mm, opinions, I get
So what I have done here is I actually cast a resin Easy 8 head to replace that, but my awful paint job is just not where it needs to be, and I didn't even get the LEDs installed. So I thought to myself, let's have a backup entry for what my legacy is going to be, and I think that this speaks to a lot of different components of the legacy theme. So this is the entry grade GM conversion kit currently
Oh,
available on my Patreon. The STL, I should say. You can download and print these files, and these are all of the parts, that come with the kit and then printed and placed onto the entry grade GM. I actually didn't have to do all of these, and like unless you really wanted to, like, if you wanted to paint it, you don't have to print all of these because you can just paint the existing parts. But I made it in such a way where you could print the parts that you needed. So obviously we've got a backpack with one beam saber slot instead of two. We've got the full skirt and pelvis that was designed from scratch. We've got upgraded knee guards. So these ones, the existing entry grade knee guard, and I wish that I had like my entry grade. I wish I had a second entry grade Gundam so that I could actually show you guys the differences between this. But I do have a high grade Gundam here where you can kind of see that the Gundam's knee guards come up to a point, whereas the GM knee guards kind of level off at like a flat top.
wow.
We've got the flat front skirt here. Again, we don't need all of this or the printing that has to be done in the front here, but it's printed in such a way where, like, if you wanted to have color separation, you could have the vents printed in yellow, you could have the chest parts printed in red, and then the waist printed in white. The chest, so one of the big differences, obviously, the core fighter, like, cockpit area of the Gundam compared to the GM is, like, it has, like, a stair step pattern, whereas the GM is just flat,
Oh, yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
flattened out here. I have some shorter, stubbier, shoulder guards here. The head itself is printed in 3 parts, so it's got camera inserts, it's got a visor
Oh, wow.
insert. What I haven't gotten to is I didn't get to print it in, clear resin, which that would allow me to install LEDs naturally.
Mm.
But yeah, so this is the entire thing. It's pretty tight, as far as, like, the joints go. Oh, yeah, and of course, beam spray gun. Gotta have that.
Wow. I
But yeah,
mean, so you're just pretty much printing GMs.
yeah. Once we mass produce this,
Oh my god.
Xeon will be crushed. Like,
Dude,
um,
this is sick.
so really the only parts that are stock from the entry grade,
Yeah.
Gundam are the legs, the arms, the joints that
Yeah.
connect the shoulders to the torso. But yeah, everything in the torso and the pelvis, those are all original printed parts.
Wow. That
Yeah, sorry the camera quality is not great, you can't see everything with it, but yes, I think that this speaks to, A, the legacy of the Gundam
yeah.
as it is mass produced and copied in the GM, and it is what I hope will be my legacy and what I leave behind, for the Gundam fandom are hopefully filling in the holes that Bandai leaves behind, because this to me, there's no reason that Bandai shouldn't have done this. It's just
I
make
know, it
an
seems
entry
so
grade GM.
obvious. Entry grade GM, entry grade Zaku too. Make it a
Exactly.
two-pack. I
Yeah,
mean,
even better. Sell it for 25.
yeah, have both yeah, yeah, that is really cool. And then it even makes me think with how amazing it is that you did this. In the future, when it's more accessible for anyone to do this, Bandai really having a like, it's like a cloud service where you download the file, you download the print that you print, and it's like DRM'd. No one's actually going out to get the plastic anymore. You're just printing it.
Honestly, I feel like that is going to be that does seem to be the future that they're going for, right? Because A, there's less overhead in doing all of that because, you don't have to ship anything, you're not dealing in physical products. Obviously, there is a bit of an environmental initiative around reducing the amount of new plastic that is being put out into the world. So if everyone has access to residential 3D printers, then yeah, 3D print your own toys.
Especially if they add something where in the future, whatever like your replicator machine is, 3D printer replicator, whatever, it can
Tea,
take
Earl Grey, hot.
yeah, exactly. That's my first thought. But it's where you can pretty much recycle things. There could be
Yeah.
things that are everyday use products that you can just end up throwing into the replicator, and that is the means of printing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, Back to the Future 2,
Yeah, that's the other thing I was
where
thinking.
he's like which it kills me when he's, like, taking the trash and he's, like, putting it into the reactor. What is
Yeah.
it? It's like Mr. Nuclear or, like, Mr. Fusion
Yeah,
reactor, and then
yeah.
he then just throws the trash can in after he's taken all the
Yeah,
trash out of it. It's
yeah,
like
it's kinda showing at that point, it could be like anything, and, um yeah,
But seriously, man, like, the yogurts that my daughter eats every morning, like, I realized that those little single serve yogurt pouches for kids are, like, $2 a piece. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" It's a good thing that I actually have already started recycling them in the form of, like, Gunpla parts, but
yeah. I know, yeah, that is great. Yeah, that's the thing, there's just stuff around here that could be used in that way. The future could be awesome.
yeah, trash is the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
Speaking of which, I wanna
Oh,
introduce you guys to a new segment that we're gonna be having on the show every week, which I am lovingly calling, if they'd load, Trasshimar.
nice. I like where this is going.
So, Yeah, every week, obviously, you guys have watched Adam and I enough that we like to keep things positive. We don't like to, poo-poo on people's parade. We like to only talk about things that we love. But I thought it would be interesting to have a segment every week where Adam and I can really vent our frustrations about particular things within Gundam, within the internet, things like that. So I am going to call this segment Trasshimar because we are going to trash something tonight.
Mm,
And so for my inaugural entry, I'm going to give you time to think about yours, Adam.
okay.
But for my inaugural entry to the Trashamar segment, I want to talk about this tweet, which obviously most of mine are going to come from Twitter, let's be honest. So someone tweeted out, and I'm going to keep everybody anonymous here so that you guys don't go and bully people. Someone tweeted out this meme about new types. So, question: what is a new type? Tomino says new types are empathy. Uh, Yoshikazu Yasuhiko says new types are Marxists. And then Fukui of Gundam Unicorn says, I'm just saying, what if new types are magical psychic space ghosts who can turn back time? Which is kind of a silly meme. Like, this is kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
Um, but it spawned such a debate in the comments and the quote tweets, and I saw some of like the worst takes I've ever seen
Uh-oh.
on Gundam, which that's a hard bar to clear. Is like some
Yeah.
of the worst.
Yeah.
So there was an argument about like, oh well, people kind of hating on Unicorn and stuff like that. So someone said, well, that magic space ghosts have been in Gundam way before Unicorn. Like obviously, Camille harvested the souls of his dead girlfriends in order to kill Shirako, right?
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of different ways to interpret that
Yeah,
scene.
I love this. I did a video when I did a deep dive into narrative, how
Yeah,
it handles new type lore. And really the idea of this is the essence. That essence of that person survives beyond the material. No,
yeah.
especially new types, they're able to amplify their ability to communicate within that realm. That is in the realm that is see, this is where I almost went with my Minovsky video. I didn't though, but the
I was
seven
gonna say,
part of the Minovsky particles, like the science, that's
yeah.
how new types are able to communicate beyond that because they are beneath the Minovsky sort of field.
Which leans into why new types are such a value to the Gundam universe, right? Is it's like because Minovsky particles interfere with signals that are being passed, like the idea that new types are able to break through that is a very important ability. And yeah, I'm glad that you appreciate the pseudoscience behind it. And it's one of the reasons that like of all of the different things, fantasy, sci-fi things out there that like that horror movies are based on, like I don't believe in vampires, I don't believe in werewolves. The two things that I think are plausible are aliens and ghosts. And
Okay.
one of the reasons that I think ghosts are plausible, right, is because of the law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of matter, right? So matter can't be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. So like what happens to the human soul when it dies? It has to
Exactly.
transform into something. The energy that's within our body, whether it's potential kinetic chemical energy, whatever the energy is in our body when we die, has to become something.
Yep.
New types are just an explanation for what that could be. And in fact, I think that someone actually replied to this specific tweet with this, which is Tomino's new type ghosts are actually the remnants of their empathy instead of a display of their powers. Maybe instead of looking at flashing lights and jingling keys, you should pay attention to the messages that Tomino conveys through new types. To which, we
Yeah.
see Puru saying, read the book, Judo.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, that just it's astonishing to me getting into Gundam how much Tomino takes sort of these themes that I enjoyed in Star Wars and how much they mirrored reality, but actually made it a deeper connection. I mean, Minovsky, and it's funny because it's like the Minovsky particles explain why we have Gundams in the first place. So,
Yeah.
why are even Gundams here, Minovsky? But then it also explains why the new type powers work and how they work because it's and then the whole empathy thing, like to explain then that, which Yeah.
Yeah, like it's basically like cosmic compassion, which,
Yeah.
it's sad to me that there are so many Gundam fans that like don't want to engage the material on this level and like really talk about these things and kind of explore what thematically is going on here. And ironically, Gundam fans are the least tolerant of other Gundam fans' interpretations of things, which is kind of like, hey, if if new types are empathy, you guys are missing the fucking boat.
That's funny. That's so funny. It's crazy because, yeah, when I was getting into Gundam doing research for videos, there were so many conclusions I was drawing that no one was really considering, and there was, like, so many things. One of the big ones to me was the scene in Unicorn with
Mm,
Martha talking to, Mineva in the roast beef
yeah,
sandwich scene, like, that illusion wasn't really spoken of anywhere.
it's really suggestive.
Yeah, and I thought, "Am I the only one?" And, but I think it's just part of
You were.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? But, yeah, it's part of how these things are handled in Gundam, which I really like. Yeah,
Yeah. I know, I agree, and everyone's gonna take different things from it, and I love when people have the opportunity to point out, like, an individual instance of something, and, like, obviously, we had AMAC on the show last year. Was it last year, or was it the year before that? I
oh,
miss
yeah,
AMAC, but
yeah.
yeah, the Gundam handshake guy, because obviously one of his big things was, like, the awkward left-handed handshake between Amuro and Camille in Zeta Gundam, and obviously these are the types of things that like they have to be animated, right? So it's a very deliberate choice. It's not like something just happened in the middle of filming these things.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is the fact that Camille trips over Emma when he's running out of the room crying after Shar is like talking about his dead parents.
Yeah.
Like it's such a like teenager thing.
Yeah,
Like
I know,
and
they animated to double down on just how awkward and emotional. Yeah,
yeah,
that
it's such a spastic move. Like, oh, you guys just don't get it. Ugh," like
yeah,
it's perfect. Like that is such a characterizing moment. And so when these types of conversations come up and people are like, kind of memeing on Gundam, first of all, I'm not even sure where like the Yoshikazu communist new types come from because like I didn't really get that from the origin, but
yeah, I
again,
know, it
everyone kind of reads their own things into it. I
I know, it's so crazy. Even the whole Starship Troopers thing, like, when it started coming back because of
oh my
Helldivers 2, then people were, like, complaining about the book. I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. This is just a story." Like,
yeah.
that this is just a story, and it's almost like, "Oh, if you're talking about this, then that's a bad thing," you know? And it's funny because even with, again, exploring stuff in Gundam, one thing I find interesting is, the memes, the one the it's like where sometimes people will only know Gundam from a meme or something.
Oh
But
yeah.
sometimes it's where it's something that even never really existed, but just someone said it, and then it just
Oh, is that the War is Bad anime? Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know, for a war is bad anime, like, one of my favorite memes, I wish I could pull it up right now, is the one where it's like, it's just a character that's like a Gundam character and saying like, "Yes, war is truly hell. It's a good thing that I have my Psycho Frame powered, like like, ion blaster cannon," like, totally romanticizing the idea of combat,
yeah,
um, which is so because that's what it is, like, how can you say that something is anti-war when it truly romanticizes everything to do with it? And it goes back to one of the things that I always talk about when it comes to Tomino is that Tomino writes Gundam and he writes the characters in Gundam the way that they are and not the way that we wish they were. He
right.
writes he writes human beings in all of their beautiful,
That's why
flawed
we hate Quest.
perfection.
That's why everyone hates Quest. He
That's
knows how to
why
write.
everyone hates Quest.
Yeah.
And Requa, like,
I
um
know, it had to be. But, okay, do you have another, Twitter post? Because 'Cause I've got something I could
no,
trash.
no, please, yeah.
Okay. And you know what? I almost feel like I'm cheating because at the end, it's gonna turn out good, but just when I went to go see G-Quex at the AMC, and the fact that they 15 minutes later walk out and they're like, "Sorry, the hard drive corrupted." Like, I feel like that shouldn't be something we have to consider every time we go to a movie. I mean, I've worked at a movie theater And there's time back when it was actually the film and the projection, and
And
there's
you like,
time where the film
oh
would mess
no.
up, but sometimes there would be a backup or they were able to save it. There's different things I've heard and seen that I mean, yes, sometimes maybe it just messed up, but I've that's the first time I was ever told that they can't play the movie,
And
you know?
did they really send them a physical hard drive? Why not just like email the file or like Dropbox it?
Well,
Like,
yeah,
I don't.
so yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there's more to that. Yeah, I guess setting them, and I wonder because it was the IMAX laser, so I wonder if it's like terabytes of space, and they
Maybe so.
but and so it was funny because when we were leaving, I think I talked about this on my show last week. When we were leaving, they're like, "Well, we'll give you guys passes on the way out." But I was so excited to go to the other theater to see it, I wasn't thinking about getting the passes. And so I get to the other theater, and the guys with had pass the pass that he got, and I didn't have mine, but I had my ticket stub. I was like, "Would that work?" And they're like, "Nah." And I'm like, "Ah, that's okay. I just want to see the movie." So I bought the ticket, and then no joke, next morning, AMC emailed me refunding my original tickets. Like I didn't have to do anything.
That's pretty cool.
And so maybe that's where the electronic part worked because they were able to just on a computer say, "Hey, this theater, we had to cancel everyone's tickets, and since I, used my card to pay online or whatever it was, I got the refund." So
So would you say that your rage is with analog systems?
yeah, I guess my rage is with yes, it's something to do with the systems that are in place in order to deliver any type of content that you want. Like,
Hmm.
it almost reminds me of, like, when a new video game comes out, but the network congestion stops people from being able to play for the first day. It's
Yeah.
like, that shouldn't be happening,
Well, it's like the PSN going
Yeah,
down that weekend. Like,
that's a good example. It's like, that shouldn't be happening. Yeah, I know things are gonna happen, but it's, you know, uh, it's one thing to where the movie messed up, so it's gonna be delayed, but it's another thing to where it's like it's messed up, you can't watch it. And it was the only day and time they were doing,
doing
IMAX.
the IMAX, yeah. Because that's the thing is I still, obviously I still wanna go see it, and I might, dip out here. Well, we'll see, like, what tomorrow looks like. 'Cause it's still showing around me, at least, until
Wow. I hope
yeah,
you get to see it. Sayla from, the Discord mutual friend, she originally wasn't gonna see it, but because
yeah.
there's additional showings,
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I was surprised about is that it was showing, like, from last Wednesday, I think, like, through this weekend is, like, the final, few showings, but obviously, like, every showing's around 7 o'clock, which is, like, around bedtime for my kids, so it's like, I gotta
yeah, that
coordinate all that stuff.
I
But then
know.
the other thing is, like, obviously, it's not even like you said, Sayla wasn't really interested in seeing it, and so I wasn't like, I don't have an overwhelming desire, like, I'm not
I would
burdened.
say, though I would say, though, the beginning and I say
Eventually, I will
beginning,
see
and
it.
I first half, whatever, like, I feel like it has to be experienced ASAP.
Yeah. Well, okay. So do you have a minute? Because I
Yeah,
feel like we can bring up
okay,
this next topic because
okay.
if
Maybe
you're okay to hang
continue it.
out just a little longer,
Yeah,
um, let me see if I can pull this up because this is something that when you were telling me, well, so when I first saw the leaked footage on Facebook that was shared to us,
mhm,
this was the first thing that I thought of, and let me make sure that we can get the audio here because I do want everyone to be able to hear this. So this is a clip from a movie that I'm a huge fan of. It's
okay,
called The History Boys. It's based on a play. It was written um like in the late 90s, I want to say, about kids in the 80s, or maybe it was written in the 80s about kids like after World War II. Not sure, but
okay,
let me I'll play it and then I'll explain the context.
okay.
Well, when Chamberlain resigned as Prime Minister in 1940, Churchill wasn't the first thought. Halifax more generally acceptable. But on the afternoon the decision was taken, Halifax chose to go to the dentist. If Halifax had had better teeth, we might have lost the war.
That's terrific.
Well, it's subjunctive history.
Come again?
The subjunctive. The mood used when something might or might not have happened. When it's imagined.
You know what? I
So
did watch that clip. I remember you asked me earlier, and I was like, "I don't remember,"
I
but
don't
yeah,
remember that.
I do.
So what's going on there is like you have these are British students obviously that they're up for they're trying to get into Oxford and Cambridge, you know, the two prestigious universities in England. That's kind of like the Ivy League over there. And what they have to do is they have to write these admission essays. And what this particular student wrote his essay about was turning points. And so the
Yeah.
professor asks him, like, okay, what did you mean, like Dunkirk? You mean like this treaty? You mean like storming of Normandy? And he's like, yeah, all that. And he's like, oh well, what else did you write about? And he goes, well, like obviously Winston Churchill played a very pivotal role in winning World War II. Um, when Winston Churchill was became prime minister of England, there was another person that was more likely to become the prime minister, but went to go to the dentist that day. And so he wasn't selected because he wasn't there. And so if he'd had better teeth, he would have been selected, and therefore England would have lost the war because Winston Churchill wasn't prime minister. And so it's like this kind of butterfly effect thing that
Yeah.
happens. And that's exactly the plot of G Cooks.
I I don't know yet. There are multiple points. There are multiple points, and I don't know where then this would have happened because
Yeah.
we don't see Amuro.
Yeah. No Amuro.
Denham's mobile suit had repairs that were needed, so he wasn't available. And Shar said he had intuition,
Yeah.
but that's multiple things to consider. So I think there's a turning point somewhere before that, and we don't know what it is yet. And I feel like it
Exactly.
has to do with Amuro. But no, because Denham. It's just weird that both Amuro and Denham are absent. Like that
Yeah.
means something happened, a ripple effect to affect those two.
And maybe they're completely unrelated, but the idea is
Could they
the
be
in
unrelated?
I mean, they could be unrelated. Like, there's no reason to think that, like, Denham's Zaku was affected by something that kept Amuro from being where he was supposed to be. It could have been something as simple as, like, you remember the opening episode of Gundam is Fraubo has to go and drag Amuro out of his house and make
Yeah.
him go to the shelter. Uh, if Fraubo hadn't been there, then Amuro
Okay.
doesn't leave.
So that happens, but then Denham. You know what I
But they
mean? It's like, and then I don't know. Anyway, I think there might be more. Either they're never gonna explain it, or there's gonna be flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a reason to explain it. Like, it's almost like I said, you know, it's not the reason for things being different isn't necessarily important. And that's what kind of that scene is supposed to evoke, right? Because one of the other students in this movie in History Boys, you know, they ask the students like, how do you define history? And so like everyone's kind of coming up with these like very fantastical explanations like, oh well, history is what great men do to like drive events forward and stuff like that. And one of the students, who's just like kind of a jock, says, can I speak frankly? He goes, it's just one fucking thing after another. It's like, because events just happen, there's no
Yeah,
significance to the individual
right.
event, it's the chain of events that creates the significance. And so that's what's really powerful about G-Quux to me, you know, as someone who hasn't seen it, is that a chain of events, that each individual event doesn't necessarily matter, but what matters is the culmination of all of these things results in a particular outcome. And so, like you said, Amuro not being there, Denim Zaku not functioning, Char saying like, "Hey, no, I want to handle this one."
Yeah.
It's the cumulative effect of these different little insignificant things. What would it have mattered if Char had gone down and there wasn't a Gundam?
Well, then I think yeah, Xeon would have like really really lost the war.
Yeah. And I think about this all the time
I
too,
get it.
just like in terms of like Gundam, because like think about uh in like the second episode of Gundam where Char is begging Dozle. He says like, "Look, man, I lost all my Zakus. Send me 3 Zakus." And Dozle's like, "You get 1 Zaku, and like Gotham is gonna bring his Zaku 1. Like, I'm not giving you 3 Zakus." And not only does that prevent Char from being able, well, maybe it prevents Char. We don't have a counterfactual to prove whether or not Char, if he had gotten 3 backup Zakus, would have been able to defeat the Gundam. But what we do know is that Dozle did not send him 3 Zakus, and therefore Amuro was able to fight them off
Yeah.
a bit longer. And so it's those little things like that. And then of course that snowballs into Char holds a grudge against Dozle. You know, he's like, why would I stick my neck out for him? Why would I try to save
I
him
can't wait
when
for
he
you to
didn't save
watch.
me?
I can't wait for you to watch it because that's what I'm saying. The whole first part is so edge of the seat because every moment is like, okay, this happened, this like it's happening differently or unfolding, but then it leaves questions.
Yeah.
It really leaves questions. I can't wait to see what your questions are. Because
And I
mine,
will have many.
because mine is like at the end of the day, Xeon. It seems like Principality of Xeon would not have been able to win Gundam or not.
Yeah.
It just seemed like they just didn't really have the force.
I
Even though
think this is one of the things that you and I talked about where it's like, you know, you play to the level of your competition. And this is something like as an Arsenal fan, like soccer, I have watched Arsenal play to the level of their competition. If they are playing like an elite level team like Manchester United, like Real Madrid, something like that, they're going to like hold it to like a 1-1. Like it's going to be a very tight game. When they play a random like B-level team like Southampton or like Watford, they will play to their competition and it's like, "Oh, we don't have to take them seriously, so we're gonna get our asses kicked for no reason." And that's one of the things like season after season, like if you're a soccer fan, you can appreciate that like you'll see these excellent teams get creamed by absolute like nobodies, and it's because of this like complacency that gets built into them. And so I almost think that by virtue of the Gundam not being there for the Federation, that Xeon didn't win because they they had no reason to escalate. They had no
yeah,
reason to build a big Zam. They had no reason
we
to
were
build
still
the
holding
big
on to
bro.
their arrogance and
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and there was the infighting, which obviously
that too.
blinds them from real tactical decisions. Yeah, it's cool stuff. I can't wait for you to watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get into that. And honestly, speaking of like, you know, series with awesome flashbacks and stuff, one of the things that my wife and I have been watching was that show on Hulu, Paradise. Are you
Oh, I've
familiar with
heard
this
about
one?
it. I've heard about it.
Fantastic series.
Okay.
I've been poking holes in the plot the entire
Oh,
time. I've been driving my wife nuts with this. I'm like, "Well, wait, why would this happen if that doesn't make sense?" And she's
oh,
just like,
I'm
"Shut up
sure.
and enjoy it. Like, stop,
Oh,
stop
wow,
doing that."
wow.
But no, I think that it's that is one of those things. Like, you know how you and I always talk about like, what is a movie or a series that like would be cool if it were adapted into the Gundam universe, and I think that that would be an interesting take.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check this out then. Usually when you recommend things, they're on point.
Oh, thank you. That's that means a lot.
It's true. So,
Well,
hey, trust
likewise,
me,
you
I don't
know.
promise about Evangelion, okay?
Okay, that's the deal. I will
Yeah,
watch Evangelion because you've told me to, and you watch Paradise, and we'll compare notes.
there you go.
But thanks for going a little bit over with me. Like I said, I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of express those thoughts about G-Cux, and you know, hopefully, you guys have all gotten a chance to see it. I don't think we gave away anything because honestly, the only things that you and I are
Yeah.
interested in are kind of like how it relates to UC. We're like not
Yeah,
even necessarily interested in
to be
the core
honest
plot.
yeah, to be honest, even the corp there's nothing to spoil. At the end of the day, there is nothing to spoil other than the little Easter eggs of what's happening in the
Yeah.
beginning. And that's why when I made my video, I was like, light spoilers. And then even as I went through, it's like, well, it's not, you're not really spoiling anything. It's just, it's introducing you to new things. Really.
Yeah. I mean, if what I would say is it's probably not even worth watching if you haven't watched the original Gundam.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. Either you're into modern anime really hard in Kara Studios and what they've done,
But
or
can you even remotely enjoy G-Quux
I
if you
don't
haven't?
know. That's a really good question because of how the beginning is, how the first main part of it is.
Yeah.
I would be curious to hear from someone that doesn't know Gundam. Because I was even thinking I could ask my wife, but she likes the original Gundam show. She knows the first episode, so
Okay, maybe I'll take my wife to watch it because she
oh,
has
there you
not
go.
watched any Gundam.
There you go. I'd be curious to see because it is
Okay.
a juxtaposition.
Yeah, I mean, it only exists as a, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it
It's a bridge between old and new fans to get into a new show.
yeah, it's like postmodernism, right? Like, postmodernism by definition can't exist without modernity.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
there you go.
so it is in itself a reaction to the thing that came
Right,
before it, and so that's where G-Quux kinda straddles this line where it's like, you really can't it is not a jumping on point for Gundam fans.
yeah.
It's a love letter to Gundam, for sure. Whether or not it's a good love letter, that's, we could have that discussion
You
later,
gotta wa
but
I can't wait to see your reaction. Can't wait to hear your reaction. I gotta watch it again, even though again, yeah. But anyway,
well,
cool.
thank you guys so much for hanging out. I appreciate, Arduino and Ultronimus for submitting some,
Yeah, cool stuff.
yeah, and I am going to perfect this. Honestly, there are some, improvements that I have coming soon. At the risk of sounding even more cryptic than I usually do, I've got some new ideas that are going to push my homemade Gunpla even further that I can't wait to share with you guys. And until then, of course, we've got the Gundam Explained show tomorrow.
That's
Go
right.
check out Adam's video on the G-Quux mobile suit itself, and go to the link down in the description, follow Principality New York, and
Oh,
get
yeah.
get one of those kits for
Giveaway.
yourself for free.
Yep, that's
Alright?
right, giveaway.
So, yeah, thank you, Art Rovo Gundam, thank you, Principality New York, and thank you, Adam. How are you?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys have a good one.
See y'all
Enjoy the
later.
rest of your evening.